Welcome to episode 48 from the Shed End podcast. As always, myself, T.Dot. I'm joined by Theo. So first and foremost, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Monday. Everybody hates Mondays. We were just talking about this off air, but yeah, it was another decent win. Arsenal got knocked out, so can't complain.
That was the silver lining of the weekend, I think, to see. I mean, obviously Arsenal were giving Tottenham a bit of banter online before their game, and then to get knocked out, who, let's be honest, Nottingham Forest played really well. So credit to Forest, credit to them as well.
We've never really had any issues against them in the FA Cup third round. I think we played them twice, 2 years in a row, and we beat them 2 years in a row. So
I did notice a tweet. I can't remember if it was you who sent the tweet out.
I think it was me, yeah. yeah, light work for some, but others make it quite difficult.
Well, this is the nature of the beast, You got to get your game out of the way before you start dishing out banter. But yeah, it was for us, obviously it was a good game. 5 past Chesterfield, although they did score, and I thought they deserved that goal. There was no real surprises in the game in terms of lineup or the quality that we had. I did say 2-0, which I thought Chesterfield, based on their form, would give us. And they did play some really good football. I was impressed with them. But what was your thoughts going into that game? Obviously, I think we were 2-0 up very early on in the game from Timo Werner and Callum Hudson-Odoi. But just in terms of the game itself, how impressed was you with Lewis Hall of some players as well?
I thought to start off, the lineup was very, very surprising in how strong Tuchel, how strong of an 11 it was that Tuchel fielded. I know that Tuchel, before kickoff, he said he wanted to respect the tie, respect the competition, respect the opponents. But for me, the lineup he fielded was almost too strong. You got a front three of Pulisic, Lukaku, and Werner. That's a front three you'd expect to start in the League Cup against Spurs. And he benched the likes of Barkley and Loftus-Cheek, who, in my opinion, were two players that were likely to start. And it took me, almost the whole first half to work out what the formation was. And then I think after chatting to you on WhatsApp, I realised that it was Hudson-Odoi and Ziyech as the two wing backs and Lewis Hall in that back three. But no, it was a very comfortable performance. When you're 4-0 up at halftime, you can just sit back and enjoy the second half. But like you mentioned, Lewis Hall for me was the standout performer, making his Stamford Bridge debut, 17 years old. That's I think the youngest ever player to make his debut in the competition for Chelsea. And he looked so composed on the ball. Very, everything he did it with a lot of confidence. And, he was playing in a back three, but a few times, he drove up the pitch and contributed to the goals, particularly the Christensen goal, which, came from a Lewis Hall shot that the keeper parried away. And then Christensen tapped it in with his head. But no, it was a very, very reassuring performance from him. And, if we do need a left wing back, which we'll touch upon it later on in the episode with Emerson's contract situation and his loan of Lyon. But if we do need a left wing back or a left back, Lewis Hall could maybe be that option. And his game against Chesterfield indicated that he's more than capable of, stepping up. I know Chesterfield are, non-league opposition, so it's maybe not the best, reflection of, the best quality of team that he could be playing against. But for me, that's definitely, going to give him a boost in confidence, now that he's made his first team performance. And, if you're watching Chelsea for the first time, you would have never thought that he's a 17-year-old kid playing for the first time. So no, really good performance. One kind of point of criticism is maybe we weren't clinical enough. We could have scored a couple more, some tame efforts from Lukaku. I don't think Pulisic fully got into the game. But then, it's Chesterfield in the FA Cup, and to see them score, if anything, was quite a nice moment, magic of the cup. So you can only applaud that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, all the points you make are valid, definitely 100%. I thought Lewis Hall, it's an interesting one because I think with under 23 players as well, as much as they're playing development football, a lot of it is, especially in this day and age, is a lot more competitive. It's not, I think sometimes when we think of youth players, we think of youth 10 years ago, but under 23s is very, challenging. You have to be of a certain quality to be able to play at that level, even at under 23. So for him to come in, we've seen it with Trevor Chalobah as well. He just walked into the team. It was almost like he'd been playing for 10 years in the first team. And Lewis Hall, you can see, is one of those players that will, if not at Chelsea, would definitely be at a top level club at some point because he's got all the qualities to do that. But he just didn't put a foot wrong. He definitely, I think from watching him at under 23s as well, he loves to get forward, and he didn't shy away from that against Chesterfield as well. But I do agree. I think with the likes of Lukaku, Pulisic, is it just a case that it was it was Chesterfield. There's no disrespect to them, but it's just Chesterfield, and Lukaku gets his goal, and he doesn't really do much after that. It was an easy goal to get as well. He didn't really have to do much to score that. It was probably harder to miss, but I agree. I think we had 11 shots on target, 24 shots in total, and to walk away with 5 goals is great, of course, but you kind of expected a bit more from us. Give me your thoughts on Sal Niguez, because I thought he did have a relatively okay game. I thought again he played well. I think he picked up a quite early yellow card, but he played relatively well in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I can just echo what I said in the previous episode about Sal Niguez and how he's building his confidence up. He's getting more game time now, which is needed. I think he's likely to start against Tottenham on Wednesday, which would be 3 full games in a row for him, which is fantastic for him, and proving the manager what he can do on the pitch, which he's showcasing to everybody and proving a lot of people wrong. And I think what's good now with Sal is, before, when you start in those games, you'd be a bit nervous to see him start, but now you kind of have confidence that he'll do the job. And I think having Kovacic and Kante play alongside him from time to time is brilliant, because last time that period we were scared to see Sal Niguez in a Chelsea shirt. He's playing alongside a Loftus-Cheek or a player like that, which, no disrespect, they're not the the Kantes, the Kovacic's, that have that experience and composure in midfield. So no, it's great to see him get another 90 minutes, and I'm looking forward to his performance against Spurs midweek.
Yeah, definitely. And one player that I was impressed with, Marcus Bentinelli, who, with obviously Mendy being away, but not just being away, with African Cup of Nations also picking up COVID while he's over there as well. It's perfect time for obviously Kepa to step up, which I'm sure he will. He's done that already. He's proven that. And I was impressed with Bentinelli. I thought he had albeit a very almost quiet game, but he did, when he was called upon, he did what he needed to do. So I was impressed with him as well. He didn't look out of place. He looked like he could fit into the team. He looked confident getting the ball. There's a lot of communication between him and the centre backs as well. So I was impressed with him. I thought he had a reasonably okay game for what he had to do in that game as well.
Definitely, he's a reliable third choice. I'd been to a few of the Fulham's Championship games when they were back down there, and Bettinelli was their first choice keeper, I think, around 2015, 2016. And he's a good keeper. He's confident. He's tall. He's experienced now in the English divisions, and he's almost unlucky to concede, because it was quite a good save initially. It just managed to slip through him, and then it was just a tap in for the other player. I think it was Asante, but yeah. But no, having a player like him as your third choice gives you a lot of confidence that, should we have a COVID situation amongst the keepers, or have a keeper like Mendy who goes on international break, then we've got the cover. So it's brilliant.
And just finally, before we move on, but I wanted to ask you a question about Lewis Baker, who it's such a strange one for me, because he's 26. He hasn't really broken into the first team. He's not really a regular. He's not someone that you would speak about in terms of Ruben Loftus-Cheek or a Mason Mount, who's a regular now obviously in the team. But Lewis Baker just seems to be one of those players that's enjoyed his loan careers, and he's had I think he had quite a lengthy injury at some point as well, but he just doesn't, this is his peak for me is at the moment, 26, 27. He just doesn't seem like he's got a place at Chelsea, in my opinion. Yeah. I don't think he's going to be a regular. What do you think?
I mean, I think he's only at the club because he failed to get a loan move or a permanent move elsewhere in the summer. It's a shame, because I remember Mourinho saying Baker, Izzy Brown and Dominic Solanke, if none of those Chelsea players break into the first team in the next couple of years, blame him and Mourinho. And clearly all three of them, one's at Bournemouth. I don't even know where Izzy Brown is, and Baker's struggling to even get minutes in a league FA Cup game against Chesterfield at 26 years old with Chelsea. So I think it's a shame. I would have liked to see more of him against Chesterfield. I would like to see him start, if anything. It would have been a nice moment for him, because it's probably the only game he's ever going to get with Chelsea. Now, maybe we'll see him against Plymouth in the next round, but other than that, I don't think we'll see him again. And one of those players that's been around for a very, very long time now. He's been on loan, in Germany, Championship, Turkey even, I think.
Did he not go to Vitesse as well, I think?
He might have gone to Vitesse, Netherlands as well. So he's got that experience of playing abroad. And he does look like quite a mature player. You're 26 years old, you played at all those clubs, you're a mature player, you're experienced. But clearly he hasn't had the right opportunity, the right breakthrough moment. So I kind of want to, point the finger, because I do think he's quite a good player, but I think it's just the opportunity. He hasn't had the right opportunity, the right moment. You look at players like Mount; they had Lampard, they had a transfer ban. Baker never really got that moment. He just had a substitute appearance, the 90th minute away to Derby in the FA Cup, and then again another substitute appearance away at home to Chesterfield. Those are the moments that you want as a Chelsea player. But no, it's a shame for him.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, he's still got plenty of years ahead of him, whether that's at Chelsea or, he goes somewhere else to find that level of football that he needs. But it is a shame. I think I recall what you said around what Jose said around the three, Izzy Brown. And I mean, Dominic Solanke, to give him his credit, he's doing okay at Bournemouth. But yeah, I know what you mean. He should have had an opportunity at Chelsea to do that as well. But moving on, you've just mentioned Plymouth, who we've now got in the fourth round of the FA Cup, which is another relatively easy tie. I think a lot of the big clubs got nice draws, if that's such a thing to say in a draw. But give us your thoughts. Obviously, Plymouth, I think we've only played them once, 1989. Kenny Dixon was the scorer that day. I'm expecting a lot more goals than 1-0. What's your thoughts getting Plymouth in the next round?
Yeah, I mean, once you play Chesterfield, you obviously expect a harder opposition. I was maybe hoping for a Fulham or a QPR, a nice London away day would have been nice. But no, we'll take Plymouth. We'll take it. I think they're League One. I think they're sixth in that division. They beat Birmingham in the previous round of the FA Cup, 1-0. And I think timing-wise, it's good to play an opposition at that level because we go to the Club World Cup straight after. We might want to rest a few players, avoid injuries. So it's a good little game for us to squeeze in between on that weekend. And one that you'd expect us to win quite comfortably. I think, similar scoreline to the Chesterfield one. I mean, no disrespect to Plymouth, but I think they're just happy to be at this stage of the FA Cup, this round of the FA Cup. But again, a game that Tuchel can look at and hope to rotate in, play the likes of maybe a Lewis Baker again, a Harvey Veo, who didn't feature as much as I would have liked against Chesterfield. If Barkley's still at the club, then give him minutes. I think Loftus-Cheek needs to start this one, unlike he only played 45 minutes on Saturday. So yeah, a game that I think we should be winning quite comfortably, and a game that Tuchel will look at and think this is time to rotate now, and hopefully just get the qualification as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that because obviously I think we fly out to the Club World Cup pretty much after that game. So one thing I've noticed with Thomas Tuchel, he doesn't like to put out a weakened team as such. He likes to put out, like you mentioned earlier on, you were surprised at the lineup against Chesterfield, and I would imagine very much he'll take that same sort of direction for Plymouth. I think he'll field a Lukaku as much as you don't want, Lukaku playing before Club World Cup, but I could see him going down that route. I agree with you. I think someone like Lewis Baker maybe should start that game, or a Loftus-Cheek, if fit, should start that game as well. Maybe even again, Timo Werner, Harvey Vale. I was surprised because I thought he would have got, if not a start against Chesterfield, he would have come on a bit earlier than he did. I was surprised. I think it's half time. It was, Loftus-Cheek and
Havertz and Loftus-Cheek, which was a strange substitution because you're winning 4-0 and you bring on two first team players who could feature against Spurs midweek. So the subs didn't really make sense with the timing of them, but we got the qualification. So
yeah, so it's going to be interesting. I think I think it's at this stage of the FA Cup, it's always good to play as many lower league teams as possible. We're going to see some giant killers, which we did see. I suppose we can call Arsenal a bit of a giant killer. I think Shrewsbury done quite well to start off with against Liverpool. Yeah. They ended up got 4-1. I think it was in the end.
Non-league. I think Kidminster beat Reading, was it?
Yeah,
and I think AFC Wimbledon lost to Boreham Wood, a small team like that, and then Cambridge beat Newcastle at St James's Park.
There you go. So
Trippier's debut.
Yeah, he should have signed for Chelsea. He would have been in the fourth round. But you mentioned about Kidderminster. I think just looking, they've got West Ham, which is at home as well. It's a brilliant tie for Kidderminster. It's a brilliant one for them. Bournemouth are playing Boreham Wood. Palace are playing Hartlepool as well. So there's some interesting ties. I know there's no real big ones that you can look at, unless Villa beat United. Then Villa Borough Middlesbrough would be a brilliant tie for me. I think that'd be a good game. But Liverpool Cardiff's another one. We saw Liverpool rest a lot of their players against Shrewsbury. So I think Thomas Tuchel is the total opposite of Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp doesn't really respect the FA Cup as much as Thomas Tuchel does. So I'm looking forward to the game. I'm hoping that we can progress, and it is silverware at the end of the day. Even looking at the League Cup, which we're going to move on to shortly, this is probably our more realistic opportunity to get some silverware ahead, along with the Club World Cup, more so than maybe the Premier League or the Champions League this season.
I was at the FA Cup final in May when we lost to Leicester, and I was devastated. I know the one kind of bit of hope that I had after was that we were playing a Champions League final 2 weeks later. But, it's silverware, like you said. And when you get so far, 2 seasons in a row now, 2 finals we've made and we've lost both, you want to win it this season, and I do think Tuchel's a manager who takes every competition seriously, and especially when silverware is involved. So I think we've got every reason to try and go all the way, and this time hopefully not fall at the last hurdle.
Yep, definitely. And let's move on to some sort of transfer news around Emerson, who is becoming sort of a cycle every week. I'm reading the same sort of issues around his loan deal at the moment. Lyon are currently reluctant to let him go, which is understandable. They let him go, they've got to find a replacement within the next 3 or 4 weeks or so. We're talking about paying compensation for a player that is registered technically still as a Chelsea player. It doesn't make any sense to me, if I'm honest, because I think he's our player. Unless there's a clause in there, this must be the issue, that there's a clause in there that's stopping us just from being able to terminate that loan. But surely now this is the more viable option. Luca Dean looks like he's on his way to Villa. I think fees or personal terms have been agreed already. So this seems like the more realistic option for us now at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we need an option that will be able to play football regularly for the next 5-6 months, and hope maybe even beyond the summer, because we don't know when Chilwell will make a full recovery. It could be October of this year or even September. So we might need a player for the opening 2 months of next season as well. I think Emerson, he ticks all the boxes. He knows the Premier League. He knows the team. He knows the manager. He knows the language, probably now, the country, everything. And it's a strange one, because you think we'd be in a position of power just to click our fingers and terminate that contract. And you have to be a bit selfish. Forget about Lyon's situation that they need to find a left back. We need a left back more than them. We have to be selfish. So I don't know if it's like a sub clause in the contract that doesn't allow us to terminate it like that. And even if we do have to pay a compensation, you wouldn't expect it to be a lot of money. If it's so I don't know. I'd hope that gets resolved in the next, I want to say, week, because you don't want to be deadline day and you still have a player who belongs to us who's out on loan, who we're trying to recall. We haven't got a backup option. Dean signed for Aston Villa. Dest has said he's happy at Barcelona. That's not a situation you want to be in. So hopefully we can recall Emerson in the next 5 days or 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. I think potentially what has happened is that there isn't that clause in there that says we can recall. Maybe there wasn't that clause in there. So I agree with you. I think, if it's a compensation issue, that's going to cost us a lot less than going out and finding a player to go and buy. In the summer, we end up loaning that player out because we want to go and get someone who's of better quality. So it makes sense to me. I think it's the more realistic option. It's just how we go about it. And you're right. I think we have to be selfish. We have to put ourselves first. We've got, competitions that, like we've just mentioned, FA Cup, League Cup, that we want to be in. We still want to be in them. Champions League as well. And yes, the Premier League looks like it's over, but we beat City on Saturday. You never know. So it could all be. It's all to play for still. And I think we have to be selfish in that situation. And I agree with you. If we do end up with a situation deadline day, we're scouring around, we're not going to get our choice that we actually want, which is worrying as well.
Yeah, I just do worry that Emerson maybe feels underappreciated at Chelsea. He was told in the summer that he was third choice, that he needs to go out on loan to play regular football. I think under Tuchel, since Tuchel arrived in January of last year, I think he only made 4 appearances under Tuchel, and 2 of those were substitute appearances. I think one of the times he was played as a left centre back or something similar to that. So maybe he needs a bit more clarity on what his position is going to be in a team. Should he come back to Chelsea, if it's going to be competing with Alonso for that first choice, or is it going to be just playing second fiddle to Alonso in the FA Cup games, the smaller midweek Premier League games? But we do need that, to be fair. We do need that. We saw against Chesterfield, we were forced to play Hudson-Odoi at left wing back. So, we kind of do need that option. But no, I just hope he doesn't really feel undervalued or underappreciated by the manager and the whole situation.
Yeah, definitely. Let's move to Wednesday. Big game Wednesday. I say big game. We should be beating Spurs. It's 2-0 first leg. So we're taking a nice 2-0 cushion into that game against Spurs. Second leg of the Carabao Cup. There's going to be, I'd imagine, some change that we haven't really mentioned in terms of Thiago Silva, who's tested negative after his COVID. I'd imagine hopefully Kante will be in that same bracket as well. But what would you do in terms of the team selection? You mentioned obviously Harvey Vale or a Lewis Baker that might be able to come into the team. But would you make massive wholesale changes in terms of the squad that we played last Wednesday against Spurs?
No, I would have made too many changes. And like you mentioned about earlier in the episode, Tuchel's not the type of manager that makes a lot of changes to his squad. For these type of games, he still fields a very respectable, starting 11, strong starting 11. I think it'll be quite a similar 11 that played against Spurs last week. I think Havertz will start. I think Sao Niguez will start again. Malang Sarr, who we haven't spoken about, who's been very, very solid in the last couple of games. Kepa will, stay in goal. Lonzo will play. I think it'll be quite a strong 11. I think, the likes of Lewis Baker, maybe Harvey Vale will be on the bench and will, need them should they come on as a substitute. But I think Loftus-Cheek's another one who didn't play a part in last Wednesday's game, but may feature this time. But then again, whether you start Saul and Loftus-Cheek, no.
It's risky.
So I think it'll be Saul and maybe a Kovacic or Saul and a Jorginho, and then maybe Loftus-Cheek will come on in the second half. But in terms of Spurs, they don't have Son. He's out for a month, even though he ghosted last week's game, let's be honest. But he's still we know what he's capable of doing on his day, and he's still a very good player. So not having him feature in this League Cup game and also the Premier League game against Spurs later this month is a huge plus for us. But like you said, we should have enough to beat them, or at least qualify. I think. I think Spurs will have a goal, in them. They're in front of their home fans in their stadium. And I think Conte will have a better game plan this time for the second leg. But, if we score early on in the first half, it will just kill the tie off. So that's what's needed.
Yeah. And that's exactly what we need. We need an early goal. Like you mentioned, Son is injured. I think Romero will be out of that game as well. I think there's issues around Bergwijn as well. He might not start. So they've got some key players out of the team. It's probably the best time to play Spurs as well. My only, not worry, but my only sort of concern is we've got a mid-afternoon early kickoff against City on the Saturday. Is that going to be in Tuchel's mind slightly? Is that going to sort of play on his mind as he's making a team selection against a 2-0, advantage against Spurs? Possibly, yeah. I think he might look at maybe resting some of the players that did start on Wednesday. If we are losing, if it's 2-2, on the night or whatever, then he might bring on a Lukaku or a Werner. So I hope he doesn't do that. I hope he goes out there with the mentality of killing that game off early on and doing it the other way around and resting some of the players that you'd expect to start, bringing off a Mason Mount who you'd expect to start. But I think it'll be interesting if he starts Thiago Silva. You'd expect him to want to try and put him in the team on Saturday, and ideally you don't want him coming into that game cold. You want him to get some minutes under his belt before Saturday. Same with Kante. I think if Kante's got a negative COVID test, then you want him coming back into the team, but you don't want him coming up against a Man City with no game time for almost 10 days. So it'll be interesting. I think he'll make a couple of changes, but the ultimate goal obviously is to get through to the final. And I think this is where it gets tricky, because some people say they don't really care about the League Cup, but when you get to the final, everyone cares about the League Cup.
Yeah, definitely. Even when you get to the semis, you care about it when the opposition is Spurs. But no, I think what you said is spot on. I think we have to approach the game with a very strong 11 and then kill the game off early and then make those substitutions, tactical substitutions with City in mind on Saturday. Take off the likes of any player that will feature or there was a guaranteed starter, maybe a Mount, a Silva, should he feature, a Kante, Lukaku and Werner, should they start? But I don't think Werner will start. I think it'll be maybe Havertz and possibly Lukaku. And we don't know again if he's going to go over back four or back three. So a lot of other questions. But no, I think it's kind of just annoying that we didn't score more in that first leg, and then we can maybe make more changes, more rotations. and have that more comfy cushion to approach the game in a kind of a bit of a chiller way. Let's put it like that. But no, I think we have to have eyes on the City game as well. It's definitely worth mentioning.
Definitely. Give me your predictions before we wrap up for Wednesday. I think I got it right last week. I'm sure I said 2-0, but I'm going to let you go first. You got it right at the weekend. Obviously, you got your 5-1.
I think I said 4-1 on the podcast, but I think I put 5-1 on the app after I saw the lineup. But no, for this game, I think, like I said, I think Spurs have got a goal in them. And I think Chelsea maybe will, they won't press as much as they did in that first leg, seeing that they've already got the 2-0 lead. So I'm going to say 1-1.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna agree. I think it's gonna be 1-1. I think Spurs will score first. They'll try and take the game to us, and they'll leave themselves exposed at the back. It'll be interesting how Conte, if he changes anything tactically. I don't think he will, and if he doesn't, I think it'll leave a lot of gaps in that defense, very much like it did in the first leg as well. We should have a lot of opportunities to take advantage of that defense, as it was a shambles. If he plays that, Sanchez, and I think Eric Dyer might even go back into that centre back role, which he's not comfortable playing there. We should get a goal. It's going to be difficult at their stadium, but you're going into a game 2-0 up. You expect to not lose the game, and definitely make sure you qualify as well. That's the most important part of it as well.
Yeah, definitely. That defense looked really, really leaky in our first leg. So if it's they do anything similar to that, then you could expect us to score 1 or maybe even more. But I'll stick with 1-1 as my prediction.
Yeah, I'm going to follow you. So hopefully we're right. Hopefully we can get through to the final. It's going to be interesting. Obviously, we've got the Club World Cup coming up as well. So we're going to do a bit of a preview around that before that takes off as well. But as always, guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We appreciate everyone that subscribes as well. You can hit all the links in the description below for our socials accounts as well. We're doing quite well on Twitter now. We're almost at 600 followers. It was only a couple of weeks ago, we was at 500. So, we are slowly climbing on there. And obviously Instagram, you do a lot of work on there, Theo. So, at From the Shed End on Twitter, and at From the Shed End with underscores between each of the words on Instagram as well. Make sure you hit the links in the description. Theo, as always, thank you for joining me on this blue-grey, cloudy Monday. You look like you got a bit of sun there, to be fair.
No, it's all clouding here in London.
Yeah, so thanks for joining me as always. Anyway, this has been episode 48 of From the Shed End podcast. Thank you very much for listening.